As I talked about in my video for diverse learners, I try to plan lessons that accommodate the needs of each individual student by taking into account learning styles and what I know based off the IEPs, as well as articles and workshops that I have attended to learn how to adapt for special circumstances. I've written lessons in a couple different formats, many of which are available on this website. If you look under Secondary Praxis Lesson Plans, you will notice that I have developed a lesson plan to work with Understanding by Design, as created by Grant Wiggins and Jay McTighe. While I have never been in a teaching situation that called for the UBD format, I am still able to incorporate the principles in my lesson planning if need be. The Annie lesson that I wrote has never been taught, but it does incorporate the main facets of understanding, those being explanation, interpretation, application, perspective, empathy, and self-knowledge. The lesson plan also works in the 21st century themes and skills. This lesson has been formatted to include formative assessment and also follows the format learning cycle of Bernice McCarthy, all while being strictly grounded in critical pedagogy to allow for the shift of power between student and teacher and the transformation of learning to finally comprehending and understanding. While I do not write in a UBD format on a regular basis, it is very easy to incorporate into my everyday lesson planning. Understanding by Design requires the teacher to use a backwards design to plan lessons. This is easily done for a choir setting because we know that we need to be prepared for the concert date. Music teachers plan their lessons so that the student will be ready to perform in front of the audience on the date planned out months in advance, and the backwards design allows for the breakdown of each part of the repertoire to be accounted for. The concert would act as the summative assessment and weigh whether or not the students truly understood the content. To truly use Understanding by Design, we need to touch upon the 6 facets of understanding. Many activities can be enacted to represent the 6 facets, but here I will just give an example of each. To explain, the students could teach the information to appear. This would be a critical process because it would require the student to interpret the new knowledge and apply their understanding to how they would go about teaching it to someone else. To interpret, the student creates analogies to show critical thought and understanding. To apply knowledge, the student could choose to perform the new knowledge, adapting it into a certain situation. An example of this would be if I were teaching genre and we turned Do You Hear What I Hear into a pop song and then into a classic opera. To put the new knowledge into perspective, the students could compare and contrast their performances and state which would be more suitable for the winter concert. To show empathy, the students could assume the role of one of the subjects of the song and describe how they fit into the context of the music and how their role serves a purpose in the story. The students would show self-knowledge if they could self-assess their performance as an individual member of the choir. Understanding by Design weighs heavily on assessment and critical thought process. In my everyday lesson planning, I list objectives that cover what the students will do, being behavioral, what the students will understand, being cognitive, what the students will encounter, being the experiential objective, and how the students' perception will change and add value, that being the critical objective. I typically work with lesson plans that build off of knowledge previously learned in other lessons, and my lessons run for many days, but I have and still am developing lessons that would last for the shorter periods of time and introduce new and exciting content. My lessons are planned with both the national standards and the New Jersey core curriculum content standards in mind.